It's a lot easier to tell people this is a scary movie or this is a funny movie. Most people don't realize that it wasn't a successful movie.
Hello, I'm your Screen Jockey Justin Neal, and today I'm going to talk about a movie that was released in cinemas 35 years ago.
It's a job for intelligent men.
Show me one, I'll ask him.
A movie that became a staple of Sunday afternoons on TBS.
Damn it, now listen to me. I'm older and I'm wiser.
As well as VHS players all across America.
Yeah, well, you're half right.
Becoming one of the most rented movies of the entire decade.
Congratulations. Be advised, however, there are two more mother humpers.
A movie about two guys who just want to get out of town.
What the hell's going on? What the hell is going on?
And a group that bands together to overcome something greater than themselves.
Hey, give me a gun, I'll take one. I wouldn't give you a gun if it was World War III.
A movie made at the end of an era for practical effects before the rise of computer generated imagery. A comfort food cult classic that I put on at least once a year.
They're under the ground! They're under the ground!
A movie that defied the odds and unexpectedly ripped success out of the jaws of failure.
The new movie is Tremors, and it's giving audiences today a high-tech version of the old formula. Kevin Bacon is the hero in this movie, which is completely unlike anything you've ever done.
This is the story of Tremors, the B-movie creature feature icon of the 90s.
He's dead. Well, he killed him. We killed it. You!
Originally called Land Sharks and pitched as Jaws on land, it was first conceived in the early 80s when one of the writers, Steve Wilson, was hiking over some large boulders out in the desert of California. He had a thought and made a note. What if something was under the ground and I couldn't get off this rock? Cut to years later, after selling the script for what became the 1986 hit Short Circuit, the writer's agent Nancy Roberts tapped them for old ideas to pursue next, the frontrunner becoming Land Sharks, only changing the title after Saturday Night Live used it in a spoof of Jaws.
Land shark. Cleverest species of them all. Oh my God.
Dispensing with failed pitches and writing the script on spec, Roberts then brought the script to Hollywood executive Gail Ann Hurd, known at that point for producing The Terminator, Aliens, and The Abyss for James Cameron, who she was then married to. Hurd came from the Roger Corman School of Movie Making, so she understood how to make a creature feature on the cheap. Hurd took the script to Jim Jacks at Universal, and literally overnight it was picked up, and the writers spent the next 6 months in 7 drafts trying to get the balance of scary and funny just right, with the finished screenplay titled Beneath Perfection.
Funny scary is a very, very difficult thing.
It is so delicately crafted because of the tension release moments.
I think it's just a really, really well-written script and a really well-constructed world.
During this time, the production team designed and built and aged the fictional town of Perfection in 2 months, with Lone Pine, California subbing for Nevada. Because the budget was so low, production designer Ivo Cristante found derelict shacks up the highway, bought them super cheap, and had them moved to the location.
You know, you're playing in a big toy box, as an art director. If it isn't fun, you're not doing it right.
Early on in the process, there was a big debate about where the graboids came from. In science fiction films, there's really only 4 places a monster can originate. They're either radioactive, a biological experiment, from outer space, or they've always been here.
Look, these creatures are absolutely unprecedented.
Yeah, but where do they come from?
I didn't want to say it. I said, in fact, I'll go one better. Let's just say all of them.
I vote for outer space. No way these are local boys.
When it came time to cast the movie, Kevin Bacon became the name attached to it.
To be brutally honest, I was running out of money.
After Footloose, he'd had a series of flops, so he took it knowing he could at least have fun with the part.
Good morning, Mr. Bassett. This is your wake-up call. Please move your ass.
My career was really close to ending.
At the time, though, no one knew how nervous he was being in a movie with rubber monsters.
Must be a million of them!
Nope, just one.
To play opposite Bacon, the filmmakers went with an odd couple approach, casting character actor Fred Ward, who I knew as Gus Grissom from The Right Stuff.
No Bucks, no Buck Rogers.
The real coup in casting, though, was the off-type addition of Michael Gross, who was nationally known as one of America's nicest fathers, thanks to the hit TV show Family Ties, with a young Michael J. Fox. his interpretation of isolationist prepper Burt Gummer.
What do you think? Max firepower this?
Along with his wife, played by country singer turned actress Reba McEntire, became a highlight of the movie and the stars of a very famous scene I'll talk about later.
This is my first time in the actual movie business, and it's been quite an experience. I've really enjoyed it.
I go for penetration, the 458, shooting solids, less ammo to carry.
Yeah, Bert. The way you worry, you're gonna have a heart attack before you get a chance to survive World War III.
We'll see, we'll see. They were thinking outside the box, and bless them for it.
Broke into the wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you, you bastard?
I also can't forget to mention a young Ariana Richards.
What's the count?
640.
Who we all saw a few years later in one of the most popular movies of all time.
Hey, what do you want, Colt or Edgar's old rifle?
Rifle.
Please get back here.
When it came to the monsters, the writer's only notes were that they moved fast, hunted by sound, and had to be big enough to eat several grown adults without getting full.
I think after eating all those sheep, they'd have to take a dump someplace.
To create the creatures, the filmmakers had dubbed graboids. Producer Hurd brought in 2 makeup effects guys she'd worked with on the Terminator and Aliens to do the creature effects, Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff. The designers of the original graboids didn't want the creature to look like what they'd used in David Lynch's Dune, which was more like an earthworm, so they went with the concept of a killer whale through water with an armored pointed head. Composed of many different pieces to be used depending on the type of shot needed, the creature never really existed full scale with the exception of the corpse Val digs up after a chase across the desert.
I found the ass end!
The filmmakers wanted the effects to be simple and effective. Unfortunately, almost nothing was simple or worked the first time.
You know, those creatures had kind of, mind of their own, so to speak. In retrospect, it was probably the hardest movie I ever photographed.
As with many effects movies, the shoot became agony, especially for first-time director Ron Underwood.
Whatever you plan for, something else happens.
Despite having storyboarded out the whole movie beforehand, once they were on location, they didn't have enough time or money, and they had to problem-solve their way through every effect. For instance, it was the other writer Britt Maddox's idea to also have a graboid hand puppet available on set if needed.
Okay, we'll have a hand puppet, and we used that hand puppet more than we ever expected.
To create the effect of a graboid busting up from below the ground, they designed and built a hydraulic rig, along with air cannons to kick up loose dirt and dust. For the scene inside Walter Chang's store, they had to recreate this with enough force to now break through the floorboards on the soundstage, using the former water tank below. They mounted the worm's head on a boom arm attached to a dolly track. When 10 people gave it the heave-ho, it came up with authority. One of my favorite simple gags is how they created the wave of the monster through the desert. They basically dug a trench and dragged a dirt-covered buoy along the desert floor underneath. For the miniature work required, which was way more than I ever knew, producer Gail Ann Hurd brought in 2 guys she'd worked with on Aliens, Dennis and Bob Skotak. There were lots of miniature shots of the creature used throughout the film, and they prepared all of that. For the famous basement shootout I mentioned earlier, the set was built as both full-size for the actors and a quarter-scale miniature for the puppet so that they could cut back and forth between the two. For the miniature set, Dennis and Bob custom built 122 pieces to match the props used during filming, but they also connected the 2 sets in one shot. Using the same pants and shoes, they threw down a fake gun, panned away, and matched cut over the miniature without using an expensive optical effect, which is basically combining 2 images into one. Though they did end up using a major optical effect for the sequence of Bert unloading into the graboid. Another miniature shot was used to show the monster slamming its head into the basement ceiling, which was something the full-size head couldn't do. So they used a hand puppet they created to articulate movement that the bigger one couldn't. I never knew that. Also involved with this scene is the now iconic elephant gun that actor Michael Gross unloads into the monster attacking. It was a William Moore & Company 8-gauge double barrel borrowed from a private collector, and it fired custom-made dummy cartridges.
Okay, let's give it a try.
This will be our start point for this take.
Now, when it came time to shoot the climax of the movie, one of the things the location didn't have was a cliff face. So first off, that's a matte painting. Then they built a 2-story cliff on the back lot, leaning it up against the side of the building and launching the creature through a hole into its gooey demise below. They shot Kevin Bacon separately and added the 2 pieces of film together as an optical effect.
It just suddenly hit me, stampede.
The original ending had Earl and Val driving off, with Val turning back to get Earl's lighter from Rhonda, which they'd used to light the dynamite. Test screenings went so well, though, that they went back and shot a new ending, giving the audience the happy payoff so craved after such an enjoyable movie. A movie the studio loved, but a movie they had no idea how to market. Was it supposed to be scary or funny? The marketers couldn't do both, so they chose neither, and quietly released it in theaters in January of 1990.
I remember that day. It was not a good day.
Here we go, I'm in another bomb. And that's exactly what it was.
It was a disappointment, but we still were proud of the film.
I think we're a little surprised that it didn't do better.
We felt we'd made what we wanted to make, right? That they,
It was a box office bomb because of the lack of advertising, way underperforming expectations. It wasn't until Tremors hit the home video market that it began to properly find its audience. Basically, everyone in your family could relate to someone in this story. Ordinary people banding together to deal with an extraordinary circumstance. So it got rented over and over and over again. I guarantee you a dozen of those are mine alone until I recorded it to VHS from TBS. An extended play, no doubt. Tremors is more than a movie. It's a part of who I am, and I'm not the only one. So I just want to thank the people that made it and all of you watching out there.
I was very, very reluctant to be in the movie and very disappointed with the outcome of it, the way that it performed. But over time, it's something that I love.
This one ain't dumb. He's trying to trick us. Use your bomb. It's our last one.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did putting it together. If you did, please like and subscribe and pass it around. Also, please leave me your Tremors story in the comments below. Can't wait to read them all. And check out my other essays. They're on my personal playlist on the channel, Swan Dive Into the Archive. Now everyone go watch Tremors, and I'll catch you on the flip side.
It's kind of hard to imagine because now we're in a streaming world. We used to go down to the store, right, and buy large VHS tapes.
Coming on video cassette, Kevin Bacon, Tremors, coming July 12th from MCA Universal.